4, 3, 2. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dishin Days, where we give you a full dish of this week's episodes of NBC's award-winning #1 hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives. Welcome to 2021, everybody! Yay! Hey. We did it! We did it!
We made it.
First show back. Glad to be back. Dishin Days with you all. I am your host, Tony Moore, and I am, of course, here with my gaggle of gals. Somewhere on this screen, oh wait, let me see, I can cheat. Oh, right over here, we have Mr.
Hey guys, Justin Hareld.
And right down here, we have
Miss Araceli. Nice to be back, everyone.
Yes, and shout out to Michael Mattis. He is still in Ohio. Hey, Michael Mattis, if you are watching us. He will be back hopefully next week. So shout out to Michael Mattis.
Yes.
Also, while I'm thinking about it, I know that you guys are huge fans of all things daytime and soaps. Don't forget to go follow my chocolate twin, our lovely co-host, James Lott Jr. over at JLJ Media, who is giving you a recap of Bold and the Beautiful. He has a special guest today for his premiere, so go check that out. Also, he does the GH Report on JLJ Media, and Tammy Govea and Candace Mack do Daytime Today. So all of that can be found on YouTube by going to youtube.com/JLJ Media. That's youtube.com/JLJ Media. So make sure you go check them out. And while you're checking out all the other social medias, make sure you like us and follow us. We are Dishin Days on Facebook and Instagram, and _Dishin Days on the Twitter. The @ is welcoming each and every one of you to a brand new year, 2021. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. You're already here. Have you subscribed? You haven't? Well, click that button so that way you don't miss any upcoming episodes of Dishin Days. And also hit the thumbs up button so that way we know that you like it and love it and want more of it. And of course, later on today, we have Mr. Mike Manning joining us live right here from the comfort of his home to talk all things Charlie Dale and his storyline and character on Days. Whew! Well,
that was a lot.
That was a lot. We've been going for a minute, y'all. What were your thoughts on Days this week?
Oh, good.
Justin.
Go ahead.
Really good this week. I thought there was a lot of forward movement. It was just storyline after storyline. Things are moving, things are being revealed. Yeah, I really like this week.
Yeah.
Araceli?
Everything that we wanted to break broke open this week, and it was so much better than I thought it was. I remember back our conversations months back, me saying I didn't know which way things would go, or if when they finally came to fruition, how it would actually play out. It played out 1,000 times better than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. I thought this week was a really good week. I think we finally dived into some stuff. We cracked open the egg on some things that we have been wondering about. So it was a very interesting week. But guess what? We here to break it on, pick it down for you. So now it is time to start Dishin Days.
Yes.
Okay, so just to forewarn you guys, technology is something else. It's our first day back. So nothing is working. So we have to do all sound effects on our own, which means also, unfortunately, you will not see pictures, but we will talk about them. And you won't see the preview for next week, but I encourage you, if you want to see the promo, go to the not the Dishin Days app. We don't have one yet. Go to the official Days of Our Lives app and check out the extended preview there. All right, so let's get into the first storyline, Gwen, Chad, and Abigail.
Oh.
So first of all, what I'm glad about and what has needed to happen for quite some time is that people need to talk to each other so that way pieces of the puzzle come together so they understand that you're being said one thing and someone else is being said another. So I'm glad that finally happened, and it started with Jack and Jennifer. When Jack mentioned how Gwen Gwen wanted them to get back together, and Jennifer was like, "Oh no, she was encouraging me not to get back together." And then Abby found the folder of all the clippings and stuff, and it was a lot.
Book.
Yes, it was a lot. What do you guys make of this storyline this week?
Araceli.
Well, we still don't know the why. So that still has, I understand what Ron was talking about when he said that this was going to break apart in pieces, because we still don't know the why. So we'll get that down the road at some point. But I'm actually okay with not knowing this week, because there was just a lot going on, and it was enough that Abigail really went for it with Gwen. And my probably my biggest takeaway from all this was that I do not feel one iota of sympathy for Chad. Not a one. No. Because this is not the first, but the second time he has fallen for this exact line. First time it was Gabby, and then it was even more shocking. It was less shocking that he fell for it, because she was his friend. She was both their friends. So that there was that sense of, oh, how could someone that we were friends with do this to us? But this was a stranger. And this was someone you let around your children. Yeah. And this is the second time you have fallen for this. And Gwen did almost the exact same thing to Abigail that Gabby did, except she took it maybe one step further by actually drugging her. But the gaslighting was still going on.
I do appreciate the fact that we there's a little bit more insight. We still don't know the why, but at least everyone is very suspicious of Gwen. But I always feel like Gwen is a step ahead, and I think that's why the whole sleeping with Chad happened, because I felt like she needed something else in her arsenal. So to have that, and to kind of have Chad, for lack of a better word, by the balls, she can still continue her plan, because, they slept together. Now, question before I keep going. There have been talks that they feel like Chad was drugged. Do you guys think Gwen drugged Chad, or Chad was just stupidly drunk?
No, I don't think he was drugged.
See, I don't think there was drugs involved either, because I feel like they would have kind of shown that.
Yeah.
But I feel like Chad has not been the smartest. I feel like, one, he followed these clues without talking to Abigail, number one. Number two, I don't know why in that moment did he feel like, well, I'm just going to sleep with you. Like, she's sleeping with Jake, you're getting over Jake, then we might as well just make this happen. And I'm just like, what? And then when Abigail, when he came and he was like confronting Jake and Abigail, and I love that Abigail was like, no, stop. No, like, this is not it. And she went after, and when she went after Gwen, Gwen was not ready for the wrath of Abigail. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but Marcy Miller was giving us all of the attitude, all of the neck rolls. When she turned, she kind of did a swing of the hair. She turned and was like, what? I was like, yes. Marcy Miller, give them every inch of that blonde hair while you are telling them all. And I feel like she was rightfully so for being upset at Gwen, because Gwen planted the seed that Jake and Abby were having an affair, and lied to Chad that she caught them kissing. And then she still tries to spin it. And Abigail was like, you're lying. Get your stuff, get out of my house. I don't want to see you. But do you guys think that's actually going to happen? Because again, like I said, Gwen has Chad by the balls.
First, let me say thank God for Anna Demira, one of the original schemers of Salem, who came in and was like, I see you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're up to, but I see you for who you are. I've been here, done this. Like, I can spot you a mile away. So I love that dynamic of it. I think in terms of Chad, Abigail, Gwen, I think he's gonna have to do some really creative tap dancing in order to get her to stay in that house under some capacity. I don't know how he's gonna do that. I trying to imagine a scenario. I mean, she's already lied to Abigail. That's enough to get her fired anyway, and especially to get her booted from the house. So I don't know how he's gonna spin this. But I'm interested in seeing it because I don't think he's interested in sort of the truth coming out, which is strange. Yeah. And also another thing, I felt like, remember we had talked about Chad was sort of like, we felt like even like one of my early predictions was like he was onto Gwen early on, or at least suspicious of her. And I felt like they kind of abandoned that, and they just totally played into his insecurities with Stefan, with his relationship with Abby. I did appreciate though the history of it though, where he was saying like, oh my God, she's done this again, and where he was sort of going on his drunken rant. It was like all of his feelings that maybe he had been bottled up before. And some of those, even though he's wrong, I got a little bit more of his perspective when he was saying something like, oh, she's sick, so we'll just blame it on her illness and that'll be brushed under, he was like, it'll be brushed under the rug, and, she sort of gets a pass for being sick. And I was kind of like, it was harsh, but I was like, okay, like we're getting this side of him that is really harsh and a horrible thing to say about your lovely wife, but also sort of the truth. And so like, I appreciated that sense of it, even though he was completely wrong and just sort of operating on these, sort of Gwen's lies, so to speak.
Yeah.
I repeat, I feel not one iota of sympathy for him, because Gwen said it herself. She was literally laying in the bed with him, and she says, well, she was like, said to the equivalent of, well, that was easier than I thought. You must not have trusted your wife to begin with, which is true, because you go and you talk to people, you communicate. Other than that one confrontation where Abigail flat out denied it, he didn't do any digging. He did not do did nothing.
Sure.
Yeah. And I feel like in that instance, like if you waited even for a little bit, number one, why get so drunk while you're waiting? Two, why not at some point call her to make sure that she was on her way, to be like, hey, what are you up to? And then once you found out that maybe she wasn't on the way to Salem Inn, then you could have left. But instead, he got there, got super drunk, had sex, and then like, and it's just like, and I'm just wondering when that part is going to come out. Because right now, Gwen played it off like, was I supposed to just like let him sit there? And then I thought to myself, no, you call Abby and say your husband is stupid drunk at the Salem Inn because he thought that you were having an affair with Jake and we're here, come get him. But you ain't do that.
Which makes you look
more suspicious. Right. It should set off the alarm.
Just like, he needs therapy, because he's got deeper issues apparently with trust that go deeper with Abby, because this was just flat out stupid. The minute that Jack and Jennifer communicated, they put the pieces together.
Yeah, it was one 2-minute conversation, and they were like, Gwen's up to something, maybe. Let's kind of like, let's investigate this a little bit more. But it's interesting, the dynamic now is turned with her, because now, even if Chad gets her to stay in the house, it's sort of, you can't wipe the slate clean, especially after that conversation she had with Jack. So it's sort of like I don't want to say she's a full enemy now, because they sort of don't know what she's after or what she's about. But there's definitely like, the masquerade of it all is sort of like diminished now. It's like, okay, we know you're up to something. We just don't know what.
Yeah, her insistence that she stay in the house, that was the one moment that caught me off guard. The boldness with which she said that really caught me off guard, because I don't think even Gabby would have said something like that once she was caught. Gabby continued to make excuses, but the boldness with which she said, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Some messages in the chat room. Steven said, Chad took forever to shut up, get dressed, and go home when he woke up. Dylan Matthews says, after this storyline, Chad should step down as CEO of Demera. A person that dumb should not be running a worldwide corporation. Let's see.
Oh my God.
And that's it as of right now. So yeah, I mean, oh, and then K Coco Candy One says, yeah, not a fan of Chad right now. Yeah. It's hard to, and I guess as viewers, we obviously know more, but you kind of look at Chad and go, do you really not trust your wife that much that you couldn't see what was right in front of you? Like, come on, dude. So whatever, we shall see how this unfolds. You know, I really am anxious in the why, but I'm enjoying the journey of like getting there. So now let's talk about Charlie, Ava, Claire, John, Steve, Trip, Allie, Marlena, Kayla.
Half the cast,
Right. So, you know, of course, the storyline has been ongoing about Trip and Allie. We now find John and Steve in Philadelphia trying to get answers as to another relative or someone that could have possibly had done this, which, you know, again, I feel like there is some doubt, obviously, and we know that, but I feel like as a parent, you do want to make sure that the truth is there. Because if you have one person saying they didn't do it, but one person feeling like they're 100% sure, somewhere in there is the truth. So I'm kind of glad that Patch and John got together, although it took a little convincing for John to get on board to really find out the truth, since there was a small doubt that it may not be Trip. So I like that. I don't know how y'all felt when they went to Philly and they were talking to the cousin Angelo. But I was looking at cousin Angelo and I was like, there is no way in the world that you would remotely be. No.
Okay, I will.
No.
I'm gonna leave this comment here. I've been to London. I've actually been in the flats in London. They don't believe in elevators over there. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, what caught me off guard is when John was like, did you rape my granddaughter? And I was like, it didn't even occur to me that they were going to ask him that. I thought they were just moving forward with the whole, like, is there another relative or who's the closest cousin or something? Like, when they started that line of questioning, it totally got me off guard. And I was like, oh, wait, they actually think it's him.
I was like, there's
like,
no.
It was just so weird. I don't know. It was a weird angle to take.
There's no way, but what they did get from it was that there is another son, and the son is named Charlie. Mm-hmm. But what I kind of giggled about was the fact that John was like, I think I know who it is, and I thought to myself, y'all went all the way to Philly to find someone that was literally down the street.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
How came together really quick,
very quickly, which I'm glad about that. Mm-hmm. I have to give kudos to Mike Manning. I know that he's a guest on our show today, but I have to say that he's playing Charlie very well. I do feel like there is a comfort to Charlie, but then there's a bit of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, obviously. Mm-hmm. The fact that when because I was like Ava, I was like, you can't free your mama. You can't, like, what are you going to do with her?
Yeah.
And when he said, I'm going to have you committed, I was like, well, how are you going to do that? Yeah. And then he was saying, I've been drugging her food. I was like,
kudos. Yeah.
I was like, you are cray. But then the way he is with Claire, I'm like, but you're also sweet. He is like the Sour Patch Kids commercial. One day you're sour, one day you're sweet. And I'm just like, which one is it?
Mm-hmm. It's the mommy issues. It's the ultimate mommy issues that sell it. But what that turn that he took with Ava, I think, was particularly dastardly because this is the exact same thing that Ava's father did to her. He kept her drugged for years to the point where she didn't even remember having a kid at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie brought that up too. Like, you have a past of this, so it'd be easier to commit you.
Yeah, that was, and you know, at the time, it turned Ava into a very sympathetic character because the idea that she was just being that level of abuse that she was living with, and now her other son does that. Now we don't know why Ava, never wanted Charlie. It seems like that's a bit of the story that still needs to unfold. It could be because of Charlie's father. It could be because, or maybe it could be simple as once she remembered Trip, it was all about Trip. We haven't really gotten a clear
they're
idea
being
of that yet.
Particularly vague about it. Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, now that you brought up the whole, like, she was like drugged that whole entire time and didn't even remember having a baby. I feel like, because Ava obviously does not like Charlie. Trip is the golden child. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if she associates Charlie with that time of her life, which makes her dislike him. Also, in the chat, someone was saying that Charlie has multiple personalities. I don't think it's going to be another DID storyline because, I'm sorry, but Marcy Miller, Abigail, she did such a phenomenal job with that, that we need to let that simmer down now for just a second before we bring someone else new and let them have multiple personalities. I honestly think that Charlie is just very angry at the fact that his mom resents him so much and loves Trip so much. I think that's where this evil side comes out. I think if Ava truly would have looked at him and said, Charlie, I will protect you. You will not go to jail for this. Your secret is safe with me. I think he would have untied her, let her go, and as long as she kept her word, they actually would have been fine and more allies than anything. But she was like, nope, I'm going to the police. You got to pay for what you did. He's like, you wouldn't do that with Trip, so you stay tied up. I'm drugging you. You being committed.
Yeah.
I don't even think I don't think that, actually. I think once he found out that there's actual genetic proof in baby Henry that he raped Allie, it was done.
Well, yeah, but I feel like what he needed in that moment was for her to say, I will help you get through this, not turn you in, but I will help you. Because if this was Trip, obviously, she looked at Trip and was like, oh yeah, no, he didn't rape you. But would she have stood her, whether he actually, you know, even though we know he didn't, would she have done that for him? And
I feel like,
obviously she wouldn't.
Maybe if they had a better relationship, there will be more of like, I hate what you did, you need help, something, but I'm going to protect you. I'm not going to let you go to jail or something like that. Yeah, I agree with you, Tony, but I don't think he has multiple personalities. I think Mike Manning's doing a really good job of just, he's also not doing the thing where like he's like obviously triggered between going back and forth between being a nice guy and not being a nice guy. He's sort of incorporating it all into one performance. So even though we know that there's tension with him and Ava, there's still a little bit of that, like, I'm your son, I still want to be loved by you. So it's not, I'm not getting different personalities. I'm just getting one personality that is really screwed up. There's a good side to him we can see, and that there's also this really weird side. I don't know where it comes from. It has to do with Ava and his past issues with her. It has to do with how he grew up. It's bad. Like, we don't know where that's coming from, because he's accepting that he did something to Allie, but he's not taking responsibility in the terms of like, I did this, I feel shame, or like he did use the word rape, but I think one time, but the other times he said something about, like, he was categorizing it as like the incident or like something I did, or like he was trying to stay away from like actually saying like I'm a predator or I hurt someone. So there's obviously issues there, but yeah, I'm not getting multiple personality.
No,
And what I think we need to give credit to Mike Manning for his performance, not just once we found out, but before that, because I was playing back a lot of stuff in my head before that, those moments where he was asking Xander for advice about Claire, and I was very confused as to, does he really have very limited experience with women? That he doesn't know to like how far to not go. And I was wondering, was he playing Xander, or was a part of that actually real? Because the nuances that he was playing with this week, where it's like, if you look at those conversations that he has with Claire, on the surface, it plays out very sweet. It plays out very loving, until you color it with what he did, and then you start to pick apart every little thing he says.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it, there's a bit of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in there, for sure. I love that, John tried to contact Clay, because Charlie and first of all, Charlie came to Julie's, where Allie and Claire were having their tea session. And when he said, "Arrivederci," Allie kind of looked like,
it was a trigger for her.
It could have been the word, it could have been the tone, but it was something.
It was something. And I was just like, that triggered her. And she, when she went to go see Marlena, she even said, like, I don't know why, like there's something very familiar about him. Like there's something. And she was hoping by now she'd be like, it was Trip, let's get this over with so that I can start healing. And she's not there yet. But then when Marlena got the call from John to go like check on Claire, first of all, I was panicking because I was like, oh God, please don't let Marlena walk in on Charlie and Claire doing it.
That was why you were like, panicking?
Yes, that was the most stressful. Like I was watching it and I was like, oh my God. And then they got to the house and I was like, oh my God. And then Claire decided, which I don't know what girl her age decides to go put on a negligee before they do it. I'm like, maybe only in Salem or maybe to buy time. I don't know. So she went and slipped into something more. Oh, and I was glad that Ben was, came to see Marlena, because I was like, this is weird. Like, why is Ben coming here? And then I was like, oh, this helps transition into that. And so I was like, y'all don't understand. I was stressing because I was like, ooh, they in the house. And then when Marlena said, oh, maybe she's down in the basement, and because sometimes that's where she does music, and I'll go down there and check, and then let Ben go check the rest of the house. I was like, thank God, because if anyone should walk in, fine, it's Ben.
That's not awkward.
Well, but listen, it's less awkward than Marlena.
Yeah.
Because how do you explain to your grandmama that I was about to do? And even though she mentioned, she was like, Charlie's in the other room, and there was a part of me that's like, so you didn't want to put on no clothes? Like once you found out your grandmama was out, like you didn't want to put back on your cute little outfit and walk out like?
Well, she was surprised. She's
an adult.
She's in her like what? Early 20s?
She's an adult. She's entitled to have whatever kind of sex life she wants in her own home.
Sure, but let me tell you this. I'm in my 30s. I can be in my own home. If my mother showed up, I would still feel some kind of way. I'd like to think that my mom, oh Lord, you know what? I still like my mom to think I'm as pure as white as snow. I know that she knows better, but there is no way in the world I would want my mom to catch me almost even. Hey mom, I got, my man in the room. And she's supposed to go, oh, okay, well, you know, you do you.
Do your thing.
No. So that's why I was
Oh,
stressing. I was
yeah.
stressing about it. So
I
I'm
did-
glad that didn't happen. And I'm glad that Claire finally was just like, all right, Grandma Marlena, if you want me to go with you, then fine, I will. And I'm glad that Ben had that moment with Charlie,
Yeah.
which I chuckled so much when he was like, oh no, I'm gonna stay here with Chuck. And I was
Yeah.
like, ah, Chuck.
You know what
And
that was, what I actually really appreciated about that was that Ben didn't press Marlena for
Yeah.
details. I
Exactly.
didn't expect that, and I really appreciated that she didn't feel like she had the right to share that information with
Mhm.
him before she shared that with Claire. And
Mhm.
he, trusting Marlena, said, you know, I trust you. If you say something's wrong, I'm gonna go with you, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think that their relationship, Ben and Claire's relationship, is better, even though we know that they had that, you know, interesting time. I think that, you know, since Claire's return, she has worked really hard to really mend the relationship. And I think even, especially after Sierra's allegedly death, she's still been there for Ben. And I think their relationship is much better, which I'm glad Chucky brought that up because, you know, it lets us know where he and Claire are. Justin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I second that, Ursula. I appreciate it that Ben was like, I want to know, but I'm going on your word. The only time it got dicey for me was when he was gonna walk Charlie out the back way. Like part of me was like, oh no, he's gonna get away, kind of a thing. That's the only time that I was like, oh, I wish he knew. Maybe he would have like talked to him or kept him in the room or something. But as we later saw, like that was fine.
Rafe was already
later.
there.
Yeah. Well, and then Charlie got back to discover Ava was gone.
Yeah.
Because she was found by Rafe, who also got a call from John to go check out Charlie's apartment. He discovered Ava, who was taken to the hospital. Poor Kayla didn't want to treat her, but you know, has to do her doctor oath. And Ava is under the impression, because she's hallucinating, that Charlie killed Trip and Trip is being buried by Patch.
Yeah. Shout out to Tamara Braun for those scenes, especially the ones with Rafe. I thought were really well done and like would have, I think with the lesser actress, I think would have come off a little hammy or like comical, but like you really got like her terror of like not only just like her hallucinating, but also like waking up and like you're tied up and like there's this man over you and it's like, you know, you're disoriented, like you don't know. And like she said, like she knows who Rafe is, but she's not, they were never that close the last time she was in town. So it's not like, you know, she saw someone else come in that she's more familiar with. But yeah, I shout out to Tamara Braun and those scenes. The ones
she really did a good job.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's kind of thinking that Kayla is coming around thinking that Trip may not have done it.
Oh yeah.
I feel that just a little bit.
Well, once Ava mentioned Charlie, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Trip's going to be very understanding of everybody who accused him, because what else were they supposed to think? But I still always thought that Kayla would have had just a little bit more doubt.
Everyone is seeing it from like, if Allie says it's true, then it's true, and then Trip must be lying, like, or Trip is telling the truth. Like everyone has their extreme. The only person that finally was like, wait a minute, was Steve, and he convinced John, and then now they're trying to find out, because they don't doubt that Allie was raped.
No, and Trip said he doesn't doubt it.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I know it wasn't me.
Yeah, and I think that's what finally convinced Allie to get the wheels turning, because that I also love that conversation between them, because he was not questioning her, but he was just encouraging her to really dig deep, really think about it. And even the fact that he backed off, he realized, you know what? No, I shouldn't be the one asking you to do this. I'm sorry. I'm going to back off. Yeah. That alone says volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one, I mean, I think people are definitely blinded by their allegiances, and especially Kate, because I know we've talked about this in terms of DNA, but also another thing I was thinking this week when they were talking about DNA and matches and who matches and all stuff. And part of me was like, the one thing they could have done to like get to this part sooner was test Steve, because that would have ruled out Trip automatically if they tested Steve's DNA, because it wouldn't have matched as the grandfather. So then they, you know what I mean? They would have
Yeah, but who would
automatically
have thought to it do that?
But I mean, but
Yeah.
well, a doctor would. But yeah, a
Well,
doctor
but
who tests DNA would have easily thought that.
But they 100% believe that it was.
That's what I'm
Trip's
saying.
blood, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
it's-
so no one would have
Yeah.
ever thought that. All right. Well, that's a lot to unpack in that storyline, and I think more is to come with that. Moving on to the next storyline, and then zipping through the rest of our show, because in about 10 minutes we have Mike Manning coming on to chat with us live. So Lani, Eli, Valerie, Abe, and the twins. Who stole the twins, and why is Dr. Rayner back?
Yeah.
Those are mysteries we're gonna figure out. Yeah. So I don't think we have enough time to delve too deep into the mystery part of it. Let's focus on. I want to focus on two things. The first is the names.
Yes.
Okay. Question for you guys: do you think that they should have named the girl after Valerie rather than
100%.
Julie?
No.
Justin, you think yes. Araceli, you think no. Why no, Araceli?
Okay, first of all, has Valerie even been here? Like, Valerie's not been here. I'm sorry. She's been somewhere else. And Julie, you know, for better for worse, fights for Eli like no other. Yes, against Lani at a point because of what she believed, but she turned around real quick. She turned that train around like in a U-turn. And once she was back on that train, there was no one who was fighting harder for that couple than Julie.
Yeah.
For
Justin,
me,
why do you say no?
My issue isn't the Julia name per se. My issue is more of the fact that just to make things a little bit even, I thought like they should have taken something. Funny thing is, I actually thought they were going to name the boy Marcus, who's Valerie's brother, who used to be on the show and died. I thought they were going to go there. But I just thought, like, okay, you've already named him David after Eli's dad's side. You've now named another child Julie on Eli's dad's side. Now you have the other child named after Abe, and there's no Valerie there at all. So I kind of felt like you could throw her a bone and like throw something that her way there. So that's me. It's more evenness and more fairness than I don't have a real issue with the name Julia or it being named after Julie.
Because I feel like it could have been Valerie Julia.
Or something, or yeah.
I like Jules. I like the name.
I do like Jules, but there was a moment where I was like, "Oh, Eli, you ain't gonna like. What did your mama do to you, honey? Like she raised you."
Yeah.
I do think so. So what we saw, which everybody gets caught at the same spot in Salem space in Horton Town Square. I almost said Salem space or Salem. That's
place.
Salem place.
That's
the old place.
Wow.
That's old. Everyone gets caught in the same part of Horton Town Square. So we see Dr. Rayner. We obviously know that she's working for someone. Like there's someone instructed her to go and steal the babies, which right now is a mystery because who dislikes Lani and Eli enough to want to steal their twins at that. I see stealing one baby, but you don't steal twins. Like, are you sure? And I kept hoping that now it's interesting because Bonnie ran into them. So I'm wondering how Bonnie is going to play into this storyline because she's the one that has seen the twins, seen who's taken them, unbeknownst to her. So I wonder how that is all going to play out.
Bonnie's getting her, now I would want to say redemption, but I feel like Bonnie's going to score some points coming up.
I think she's been redeemed by giving all her munchies.
Exactly.
To Sonny. I think she's redeemed. But I feel like it's another shakeup in the Eli Lani storyline. Which we were hoping for a break. I'm glad the babies survived. But we were hoping for a break. But there's a lot to unpack there. And someone in the chat room said they love having Valerie back. I love having Valerie back too, but I also love how they cue us to know that she ain't gonna be there long. Because when her and Abe were having that moment, And Abe was like, well, you should be with a guy like me. And she's like, that's true, but I'm already dating somebody else. I was like, that's how y'all keep her off the campus, Candace. Y'all keep her dating other people back at where she was.
I have to say I was disappointed with that because I never know how long people are staying, or so I'm hoping that maybe she was going to be back a little bit more full time. So I don't know. I think she has a presence there. I think that they should find a way to incorporate her more.
I do too. I really think that they should have kept her with Abe, but you know.
But
whatever.
can we bow down to Sal Stowers?
Yes, she was great.
She was freaking. Speaking of mothers fighting for their children, you could feel she was heaving in those cries.
That panic attack was really well done.
Yes,
she does. She always does an amazing job. I felt, and I thought her. This is a side note. I thought her hair looked cute too.
Yeah,
I like the little. But I was like, that's a great post. I just gave birth to twins, but still look snatched for the gods. Look.
It's also that's also a post. That's the perfect postnatal hairdo, because once you get home, you're gonna be going weeks without having, you're not gonna remember when you last showered. So she was like, I'm ready. We're doing this. Let's go.
And I love that moment that they took just in the hospital room before all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
I like that moment that they had. Lord. Okay, so we're gonna see how this plays out. So before we move on to tidbits and get through that quickly in our segments, just a reminder, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please tell your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you don't miss out on what's to come right here on Dishin Days. It's really easy, y'all. Just click the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and you are in. We appreciate your support. Thank you. Now quickly going through tidbits, we have Xander, Sarah, Philip, and Chloe.
I'm glad Chloe knows. And now Brady knows, I guess. Yeah.
I'm glad Chloe didn't try to cover that up and say, no, Brady, he in trouble and we need your help. So I like that. And Xander is on to Philip.
Philip is his own worst enemy. It's like at every turn he makes the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Underestimating Xander, big mistake. Literally everybody else in the town now knows, he's a big lug, but he's not stupid.
So we'll see how that story continues to unfold. This week it was just literally a little seed plant, nothing growing from that. Jake and Kate, as of right now, they are no longer. How do we feel about that?
No, they're back together.
They're back together.
Sorry, they
the Monday show.
They were no longer, but then
and then quick,
I appreciated the fact that Jennifer kind of made Kate realize, what's the problem? Why are you hiding from this? What's the issue? And we saw a bit of vulnerability with Kate. And, there's some understanding there. She's gone through the Men of the Mirror, which Jennifer was kind of pointing out. She's a bit older. So there's a lot of concerns with her. But I'm glad that Jennifer, of all people, helped her see that. And
love those scenes,
and just allow. I like Jake and Kate. I
do too.
For the same reasons that Kate likes him. He's honest. He's real. He's himself. You know what I mean? And that, I really do think that's unlike a lot of the men in Salem. Jake really is one of a kind.
Yeah. I'm glad they worked that out.
Yeah, and he treats her well. It's not just that he's honest. He actually treats her well.
I agree. Kristen and Brady. They had a little, first of all, I love that she was searching the internet in the Disney area. But they just had a moment where I think for a second she questioned him, especially after seeing the picture with him and Chloe, and just again, reiterating how, he misses her and how things are hard, but everything is fine and that him and Chloe are just friends. I know that people are rooting for Brady and Chloe, but I just like them to remain friends.
Yeah.
That's
I do appreciate though that, and this funny thing is, they had a scene like this way back with Teresa and Brady. I like that people acknowledge how beautiful Chloe is, and also her relationship to Brady. Like I feel like sometimes it quickly gets swept just because it was so long ago that they were married and they're like completely different characters now in many ways. But I like that people acknowledge that, like, oh, they were married. She is a stunningly beautiful woman, and there's a reason. You know what I mean? I appreciate that when it gets brought up.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't acknowledge like other people's exes in that sense. So I like when they do it with Chloe.
I feel the way about Brady and Chloe that I feel the way about Brady and Nicole, which is that these relationships, the triangles, all that stuff's been played out. The three of them work fantastically as friends. Please don't change anything.
I love them as a friend group. Yeah, of course.
And then last but not least, very quickly, Nicole and Rafe. We're starting to see there might be some tension between Nicole and Eric, and then Rafe pops up, and then, you know, he like came with a gift for Henry, but then, you know, chatted with Nicole about how her and Eric are. So I'm sitting here like, is this a blossoming friendship, or are we about to blossom into a relationship?
We'll see.
I was gonna say maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I was gonna say maybe, except for when I saw, and I'm gonna go off the wall here, when I saw Rafe rescue Ava.
I did get some sparks there with them. I was kind of like, ooh, that would be an interesting pairing, but yeah. Kind of interesting scene.
You never know. Sometimes you never know until you just put people in the same room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
this
happens?
is true. All right. Well, that was your week of days, and it is now time for our favorite part of the show, which we're going to get through quickly because any minute we will have Mike Manning joining us, who you know as Charlie Dale on Days of Our Lives. But first, our segments, and we're going to start with mine, which is Tony's official 3 Snaps Award. Oh, snap. I actually waited for the oh, snap. So my 3 snaps has to go to no other than, I'm going to try this, y'all, because we ghetto.
Yeah.
Marcy Miller as Abigail Devereaux. When she laid into Gwen and was giving us I was like here for it all. Like absolutely amazing this week. So Marcy Miller, Abigail Devereaux, you get Tony's official 3 Snaps Award. Oh, snap. We don't have the caption that today because Michael Mattis is out in Ohio, but hopefully it will return next week. But in the meantime, we have, wait, who's next? Those were the days.
Very quickly, this week's Those Are the Days are Rafe and Nicole. We touched on this a little bit in tidbits, and Rafe and Nicole looks like there may be something brewing. Again, this is not the first time. The last time it happened, it was actually a ploy. It was a plan hatched by Rafe and Nicole to pretend that they were together and that he was the father of her baby who died. This was back when Sammy and EJ had an affair. It broke up her marriage to Rafe, his marriage to Nicole. Rafe and Nicole got together. Nicole didn't want EJ to know she was pregnant. Rafe took responsibility and they came together as friends and then decided that he would claim the baby was his. That later didn't turn into a romance with them. That actually turned into the beginning of her and Daniel. But anyway, now we're sort of getting back to maybe possibly something actually romantic with Rafe and Nicole. So we'll see.
Those were the days. All right. And now it's time for It's a Gift.
Oh, you have it. Yeah, I was going to pull it up. Yeah, so that'd be Sarah. And this week's title is Sexual Frustration.
That's it.
Yeah, that to me was just like, those her ultimate sexual frustrations. Like, my man would rather work on company secrets than be in my bed, which to me was a little like, dude, at least throw her a bone.
Right.
I didn't mean that to sound like that.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
You know what you meant. And that was It's a Gift. There is no oh shiz moment of the week. Me World was like, it was a great week, but he doesn't have one. We will come back and do our news and gossip after our talk with Mike Manning. We don't have the promo today, but if you would like to go see what's coming up next week on Days of Our Lives, make sure you go to the Days app to see the extended promo so that you can see what's coming up next week on Days of Our Lives. All right, now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, you know him as Charlie Dale on the hit soap opera Days of Our Lives. Please help us welcome Mr. Mike Manning. I think he's in. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. There you are.
Hey.
You're live. Yay.
Hey.
Welcome to Dishin Days. I'm Tony. There's Justin and
Hey,
Araceli.
Nice to meet you.
Very happy to have you on. We have been very intrigued with the character of Charlie since his arrival in Salem.
Okay.
We have been singing your praises this whole show because we
Yes.
think that you are doing an amazing job with the character.
Thank you.
We have had to accept that Charlie is what we like to call a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
But there is a softer side of Sears to him as well. And so we appreciate both sides.
I love that. Yeah, there it is. That's Charlie in a nutshell.
So for you, wanted to start at the beginning because whenever we have someone on our show and they're a new character, we always like to find out kind of like the casting process. Were you ever called in to Days before you got the role as Charlie?
Yeah. So I had been called into Days. I think my first audition for Days was like 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
In Marnie, I went in there, and my first, one of my first big TV auditions after I moved to Los Angeles, and I ended up going to the producers for that, and it was down to me and a couple other guys. I didn't get it, but Marnie, the casting director, has been really good at calling me in like once a year, once every, just for something, and it was with this one, I think it was a matter of time of just like finding the right role while I, matched that role. And Marnie is fantastic. And I think that the talent that she brings to the show is great. And it's a good testament to her eye. And she wrote me this really nice message after I got cast. She reached out to me, which she didn't have to do. And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, Mike, I'm really proud of you. I'm really excited that we found you for this role because it's a really complex role. And to be honest with you, I didn't know how complex Charlie was at the time. When they cast me, they were like, oh yeah, he's kind of nerdy. He's kind of, he's a new intern at this job. He meets this girl that he likes, and he kind of has a dark past, but like, don't worry, we'll get into that." And that's basically what they told me. Yeah. And so Marnie reached out to me, and she's like, "I'm really proud, this really complex role. I think you're gonna do great." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you, cool, can't wait." Not really knowing how crazy Charlie would become, but yeah.
No, he's ever since Charlie came on, I think we all were kind of like, all right, who's this kid and what's happening with him? But real quick, do you remember the role that you were up for when you first went to Days?
I don't. To be honest with you, I've been really lucky. I have a great team, and I've been really lucky that I've tested for General Hospital. I've tested for Young and the Restless, and I tested. I obviously got cast in Days. So over the years, there have been a few close calls, and then this was the one that stuck.
Because it's always interesting to find out who someone could have almost played. We've always found other people who have been finally got cast on the show in a completely different role, went up for something completely different, and you go, that would have been interesting. But everyone obviously has their times, and this one is definitely yours. As we said, Charlie for us has been a very interesting and intriguing character. And going into this, not knowing a whole lot, what are some of the things you did or infused to like kind of create Charlie?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think with Charlie, first and foremost, I wanted to kind of like when I play any character, I just want to figure out the core of that character and what drives them as human beings, because I think that creates the most truthful performances. And I think that with Charlie in the beginning, like with the information that I was given, I was like, okay, what is his driving force? What does Charlie care about most in the world? And in the beginning, it was doing a good job at Titan and having, because this job, his internship at Titan was one of the first things that he sort of got for himself, and he earned, and he like stepped out of his comfort zone. And so in the beginning with that role, it was very much like, I want to show his earnestness. I want to show how he really wants to, despite, Philip and Xander Kyriakis being at war with each other, I really want to show that he wants to do a good job. And that's his driving force. Yeah. And then he meets Claire. And for the first time in his life, he gets those butterflies, and he's brand new to town, and he meets somebody, and there's that spark. And then so at that moment, I was like, okay, his driving force now in these scenes is love, with Claire, and meeting this girl that he really has feelings for, and seeing where that goes. And then as I got more information, I was like, oh, now he is spying on Titan for his mother, Ava. Okay, so now his driving force is making his mother proud. And then, as things go deeper and deeper, then I tried to make the performance a little bit more nuanced, because Charlie had more information, and also the audience had more information. And I didn't want to give anything away before the audience knew, because there were already, as soon as I got cast in the role, and Charlie, we see Charlie at Titan, immediately the rumors are like, who's this intern? What is he doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then like, even down to like, when Claire spilled the smoothie on Charlie, and they were like, is that really an accident? Like, did he orchestrate that whole thing? And I was like, you guys, she spilled a smoothie on him. Come on, that's pretty good. He orchestrated that whole thing. But I really wanted the performance just to get deeper and deeper and deeper, so that by the time there was that showdown with Ava, and it was like the Charlie and Ava screaming in the apartment, and everything comes to light about what Charlie did in this awful past. I wanted everybody to not see it coming as much as possible.
Yeah, very true.
Mike, when you as sort of these scripts are coming in and you're sort of unraveling Charlie's past, was there any sort of trepidation of like, oh wow, I didn't know they were going to go this dark, or this isn't what I was thinking in terms of past?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember this. So I'm sitting in my little office chair right now, and I remember sitting in this chair reading. I like print my scripts and I organize them for the week, and I highlight everything and I go through everything. And I remember sitting in this chair reading the script about the scenes between Charlie and Ava, where Charlie actually admits to it. And I remember sitting here reading like, oh no. Because at that point, Charlie, I ended up feeling for Charlie. And at that point I was like, I wanted to fight for Charlie. And, denial is such a powerful thing that in my head, I was like, the producers said that it was going to get dark, but it can't. It can't be that dark. It's not going to be that dark. And each script would come in, and I was like, okay, but it's probably not that bad. And then another script would come in, oh, it's probably not that bad. And then I remember sitting in this chair reading the script where he actually admits what he had done. Yeah, he's done, and I was like, oh, Charlie, what did you do? Why? And then I think my focus at that point, once it was confirmed that I knew Charlie had assaulted Allie and he had done these awful things, then I was like, okay, but why? People don't just do bad things for the sake of doing bad things. There's always a reason why human beings act a certain way or make certain mistakes. And so I was like, Charlie, why did you do this? And then at that moment, my focus shifted from, Charlie being in love and Charlie being, with Titan and everything, to like, Charlie is somebody that never had love in his life. And, you know, we see that with Ava and like why he was so desperate for her to love him and why he sort of did whatever she told him to do. And he comes from this crime family, this awful family, to like, why did Charlie assault this woman that he didn't even know that, and while he was following around Trip around London, why did he do that? And that's where then I tried to humanize Charlie as much as possible. Because I know that like, I'm not trying to discount what he did. It's an awful, awful thing. You know, sexual assault happens to people around the world, men and women, and it's awful. And I'm not trying to say anything other than that. But I wanted to say, okay, look, at the end of the day, at least I want to show people why Charlie did it.
Yeah.
And have them understand.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember us delving into this character and this storyline when it first broke. I remember having some trepidation about it because I didn't know exactly, because at the time it was thought that Trip had assaulted Ellie. And I remember having some trepidation of like, soaps have a very particular history with assault. And I feel like in the last 10 years, we've come a very long way in terms of how we discuss it, the nuances of it, that it's not just that no means no. There's so many more nuances and layers to assault than we actually previously thought. We've seen it in marriages, we've seen it in domestic relationships. And so when the audience started to figure out that it was Charlie, I was kind of surprised at how they came about, because this again is not what I thought it was going to be, but it also isn't something we have seen before on soaps. I can't remember in my memory because I've taken stock and I was like, I don't think we've seen quite this particular assault storyline.
Yeah. And that was something that that I was pleasantly surprised with, because the only thing worse than being a part of a rape storyline is being a part of a bad rape storyline that says something really negatively about either the victim or makes a mockery of it, or, you know, any of those bad things. And so I was pleasantly surprised that, at least in my opinion, the show has taken care in crafting the story and at least showing different sides, and also showing, I think people are gonna see this. I don't want to give too much away, but I think that they're gonna show how it really hurts people and the negative effects and how brutal it can actually be. And I remember having a conversation with Lindsay when I got those scripts, and I was like, Lindsay, I know that you and I are going to be having some uncomfortable scenes together. Let's talk about it. And we both sat down and we were like, you know, we have to go for it. We have to be truthful with these characters, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because to your point, what you just said is like, this stuff happens to people in life, in the world. And I don't want anybody to think that this storyline is making fun of that, or that this storyline doesn't accurately show the pain that it causes, because we need to do those stories justice.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about this storyline, one, I think a lot of fans, they do like the character of Charlie. And I think one of the biggest concerns is if Charlie will be a redeemable character, especially like knowing what he did to Allie and everything like that. And I think the way that the story has played out up until this point still allows for us to feel for Charlie, because one of the things that we talked about today was the fact that it's very clear that, you know, Ava does not like Charlie, has no love for Charlie, like wish he wasn't born. And in those moments when Charlie, you know, had her tied up and everything like that, I said today, if Ava had just said, I will help you in any way possible, you will not go to jail, I'm here for you, I think the storyline would have played completely different.
Completely differently, yeah.
In just knowing that Charlie had his mother and had her love. But the fact that she was just like, nope, you going to jail. As soon as you untie me, I am making sure that they know about it. Trip is my golden child. You are not going to do any harm to him.
Yeah.
I think that's what triggers Charlie a lot. So all that to say, I feel like there's still love for Charlie and a little understanding as to maybe where he is and why he's so fed up is because he has a mom that really resents him, and he's doing everything he can to show her like, I love you and I just want to be loved back. With that, you know, how was it playing those scenes with Tamara Braun? Because, you know, she's absolutely amazing.
There's such
Ava.
an energy to her.
Yeah. And like, you know, when she's on days, I mean, she is like, she's in control. Yeah.
That's a really accurate way of putting it. Yeah. She is a powerhouse, and I consider myself very, very lucky that she was the one that I got to do those scenes with, and that she is the one playing my mother, because I did, you know, I prepared as much as I could have for those scenes, but the scenes in the apartment where we sort of had that explosion and we were yelling at each other and like, and they're very emotional, and you feel the brokenness of these two characters and how, you know, she doesn't love him and Charlie just craves that love, you know, above everything else, and how she's not going to give it to him. But, you know, she also, to her credit, she explained why, that her other child was ripped away from her. And at that moment, she couldn't be a mother. So she did the best thing that she knew how to do, which was take a step back and try to distance herself from her child. And then, of course, you know, Charlie grew up a certain way and Ava, you know, moved on with her life, and we see their relationship. But I remember, because I've done, you know, I've been pretty lucky. You know, I've done, over the last decade here in Los Angeles, I've done a bunch of movies and television shows, and I, you know, I've done, I haven't done a soap before though. So I've done, and typically when you, on a different show, on a primetime show or whatever it is, you know, you go there and they're like, okay, today we're shooting 7 pages. And on the soap,
today we're shooting 80 pages.
They're like, we're shooting 80 pages and 30 of them are yours. So good luck. And with those scenes with Tamara, it was like we shot a lot of that back to back. And so over the course of 3 days, I had like a huge amount of dialogue. They're like all my scripts. I just remember sitting in the dressing room, like going through like, how is my brain going to hold all these words? And I was like, not only are they it's just words, but it's like, these are words packed with so much emotion, and I really want to do them justice. And I remember the first day with Tamara on the set, I'm like running through the lines, and I'm like just trying to stay in character and just really try to hold on to that emotion. And I think Tamara, being the pro that she is, could sense that. And she just came over to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and she looked into my eyes and she goes, hey, it is what it is. Like, just like take a deep breath and we're gonna get through this. And she hugged me, and and she gave me a hug, and that, I think, is what took the performance and made it something else, because in that moment she was Ava hugging Charlie, and before that scene, Mike, as the actor, got what he needed from his scene partner, just knowing like, hey, there's a safety net. Like, I'm here with you. Whatever is going to happen, we're going to do this together. We're going to handle it together. And I do feel like that is because of that relationship, and because Tamara and I connected before we shot those scenes, you really feel the push and pull, the mother son, like that entire scene. The rest of the scene, Charlie just wanted that hug again. He wanted to hug his mother. He wanted that. And it was because she took that time to connect with Mike before we shot that. So I'm just, if it had been another actress, I can honestly say that I don't know that those scenes would have been quite like they were.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, hugging is few and far between these days.
I know. I was just, when you said that, I was like,
oh yeah. And this is where we're on set by ourselves, with
Nice.
everybody else in the crew 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And we just took our masks off because we're tested every day. We have our masks on every time that we're not in front of the camera. So no, that they take it very seriously. And yeah, exactly what you said. Like, that was my first human contact all day as well.
It's like, thank you for that hug. I need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For you mentioned how, of course you've had an amazing career over the past decade, and soaps is definitely like a new world for you. Going into it, did you have any fears or anything that you were worried about going into it? And then were you able to kind of conquer those from that point up until now?
Yeah, I was afraid. It's like you always have that that dream, that recurring dream when you're in school, like you wake up and you like forgot your homework, or you like don't like of course that fear for me was like, I'm going to get there and I'm just going to go blank and not remember the 40 pages that I have to shoot. And
Right.
it's going to happen. And I just had to like have a conversation with myself and say, Mike, like, it's going to be like live theater. And luckily, I started doing theater when I was a kid in Colorado. And that's what really made me fall in love with acting in the first place. So I just made a deal with myself. I said, Mike, just treat it like theater. You get one take, maybe two, if somebody falls on their face during the scene. But just treat it like theater, and it's whatever's gonna come out of your mouth and however it's gonna play, just go with it. And if the producers are happy to move on, just trust that you gave a good performance and just move on. And I made that. And of course, the first week, a couple weeks I worked on the show, I would drive home at the end of the day being like, oh man, I could have done this. I could have done this. Like, why did I say this? But after a while, it just became, I sort of got into the rhythm of the show and into a rhythm with the other cast members and the producers. And, now I can honestly say, like, I show up, I do my job. Most of the time I drive home with like a smile on my face, really thinking to myself, like, I'm really proud of what we were able to create today.
Yeah. Well, you definitely should do that, because we have been like amazed with the work of Charlie, like since he came on the canvas. And because you are on the Bay as well, and you work around many of the soap actors and actresses on there. Did that kind of prep you to enter into the soap role, or did you take any of that experience of working on that set into Days and feel a little more at ease that you at least been around some of the actors enough to kind of be a little more comfortable going in?
Yeah. So because of Days, I was already friends with Brandon Beamer and Mary Beth. And and that was great because both of them, it was like anytime you start a new show, it's like you're the new kid at school.
Yeah.
It's easier to be the new kid at school if you know some people in your class.
Yeah.
So they I showed up and they stopped me in the wardrobe room and they're like, hey, so happy to work with you. Like, they were both very, very welcoming, and everybody in the cast was really welcoming. But funny enough about the Bay in particular, so I found out that I got the role in March.
Okay.
A week, and I signed my contract, and I found out a week before the pandemic.
Oh my God.
Before the shutdown. So I basically found out that I had this role.
Yeah.
I auditioned for it in February of 2020. Found out I had this role, and then a week later it was the shutdown. And you remember in the beginning stages of the shutdown, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be a month.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna be done by Easter.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it's gonna be done by August."
One by one.
Yeah, it was like every single new announcement, it was another couple weeks. And so I spent the entire pandemic not knowing if I had a job, but not being able to take another job because it could have opened up right away. So a lot of my friends didn't know because I didn't want anybody to say anything and ruin my chances if anybody found out. And I couldn't tell my parents because my mother is awful at keeping secrets. So I couldn't tell anybody. And they try to be supportive. They call me like, "Hey Mike, I was watching this show and you should be on this show." And I'm like, "Hey, please call the producers and let them know."
Okay.
That is a
Now, to that
quintessential
end,
response. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an actor in LA. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
to that end, I have sorry, but to that end, I have to ask, what does your family think of the character you're playing now with this new twist?
Yeah, so so in the beginning, they really enjoyed watching Charlie. They were like, "Oh, Mike, he's adorable. We really like him with Claire. We hope it works out." And I sort of let them. I didn't say anything for a little bit, and then about a couple weeks before all that stuff aired with Tamra, with Charlie and Ava, I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I know you're watching the show. Thank you so much for your support. Maybe stop." Maybe don't watch it anymore, because not only did Charlie sexually assault somebody, but some of those scenes, I would, if I had a kid and my kid was saying some of those things that Charlie said to Ava, and my mother was watching that, I don't know how she would react. And of course, that would probably hurt her feelings, because she's seeing her son go through this, even though it's fake, even though it's pretend. She's still seeing those emotions. And so I warned her. I said, "Mom, maybe you shouldn't watch that." And she still did. And so I don't know. We haven't really talked about the specifics. She told me that she was proud of my work as an actor. But yeah, if they stop watching Charlie for the next couple weeks, I until he gets past some of the harder stuff, I wouldn't blame him.
Well, hopefully they can. It sounds like, your mom will be able to just look at your work and say, "You're doing great work." Yeah. Now, please patch me through to the writers so that I can talk to them about the storyline they're writing for my baby.
Yeah. And I will say that it's been really getting to know the fans and going on Twitter and seeing people emotionally react to those scenes has been really fun and really exciting. And I think soap fans are unlike any other fans I've ever interacted with.
Yes.
And they feel very strongly about something one way or another. And a lot of people were either saying, "Hey, like, Charlie, we hate what you did, but we love your acting in these scenes, like, really good job." Or they've gone as far as to say, like, "Charlie, we really hope that you're redeemed, because we really love having you on the show. Let's see what happens." And so that's kind of been a comfort, because I was convinced that everybody, once it was revealed, everybody was going to turn on me, and I would get like, "We hate you so much," and Charlie's awful, and "We hate you too, Mike," and "Shut up," and it hasn't been like that, luckily for me. So.
Well, listen, if they can redeem Ben, a serial killer, there might be some hope for Charlie.
That's what I told Rob. That's what I told Rob, because we had the scenes that just aired, I think, last week between Rob and I. And he goes, "Hey, Mike, like, great working with you, man." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you for being here, because you give hope to everybody." That's an ex-serial killer. Like, now he's like the resident possibility on the show. And
right. Well, speaking of Rob, one of the scene this week. Listen, I was very tickled by this. So the scenes where you guys were in Claire's room, which, by the way, I said I was freaking out the entire time, because I was just like, please don't let Marlena catch them in Claire's room before they're about to do. Like, don't do that. Like, just. So I was very happy when Ben walked in. But when he called you Chucky, like, was that in the script, or was that a little ad lib? And how did you keep a straight face? Because I giggled when he was like, "No, I'm just gonna stay here with Chucky."
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I don't know if that was in the script or if that was something that Rob did.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we did the blocking rehearsal, he said that, and I started laughing, and I couldn't. And I think I actually broke. I think we had to stop and restart, because I think I actually broke when he said that. Because there was one, like, he said it a certain way one of the times where he's like, "Chucky," and I couldn't. I started laughing. And we had to restart.
It was a very, very good moment. We do have some questions from fans in our chat room. Kelly wants to know, who has been someone you looked forward to working with when you started the show?
Yeah. So of course, like, you know, the people that have been on the show, like Deidre and Drake and some of those, and now Galen, you know, I think that because we had the wedding scene and then we had the Christmas party and stuff. And so, and just watching them work is fantastic. Just watching them show up, do their job, command the room and have this presence and, you know, and then move on to the next thing. It's just like, it's really fun to watch them. And I was looking forward to working with them. One person that I didn't realize I would have as much fun with has been Paul Telfer. Xander. So Xander is just so much fun to work with. And every time on set, we would joke around and I think it came across in some of those scenes where he's like berating Charlie and Charlie's fumbling with his glasses and he's like, wait, I don't know, what do you do? And Paul and I would just joke around so much off camera that it really immediately, when he was like, when Xander was giving Charlie that advice about dating Claire and he's like, just do this, man. And he was almost treating him like a little brother. Paul was kind of treating me like that immediately when we started working together. So that was another thing. Like, I think that you could see the chemistry through the words, you know? And so Paul, every time I work with Paul, I look forward to that. And I think Isabel too. I reached out to Isabel when I found out when we were going to start shooting, because I know that she is a newer replacement for somebody on the show. And with her, she's so sweet. And I think that she brings this quiet power to Claire that that is just in her as Isabel, and she's so giving as an actress, and she, you know, she really works hard to bring different nuances to the character, and that has, and I think audiences, I think everybody will see in the next couple of weeks, especially, it made it easy for Charlie to fall in love with Claire. And it's continued to make it easier for Charlie to want to fight for Claire, because we see why they genuinely fell in love. I think they're two broken people, two hurt people. And if Charlie hadn't done what he did a year ago in London, I think that Claire and Charlie would be perfect for each other. I think that they met at a time where they both wanted love. I think that, you know, Claire has been living in Sierra's shadow for so long. And Charlie's the first person that moved to town, didn't know anybody, didn't know Sierra, didn't know her family, and just likes her for her. And I think that's important. And I think that the writers did that on purpose, just to, like, it's kind of sad. It's like that forbidden love, like Romeo and Juliet story, like all else, if this didn't happen, they would have been perfect for each other. And that's what gives Charlie something to fight for. And in some ways is his Achilles heel, because as we saw this week, and as I think we're going to see, I can say this, is like, we're going to see Charlie try to lie his way out of everything and really try to get away with what he did, because the reason for that is because he doesn't want to ruin things with Claire. He found that love that his mother never gave him, that his, you know, anybody else in his life, they never gave him that love. He found that love with Claire just at the exact same time where all of his demons are catching up with him. Now he's going to fight for it. He's painted himself in a corner, and now he's going to try to fight his way out.
Well, welcome to Salem, Charlie, because that's what everyone does. Everyone tries to lie and get out of whatever they did. So listen, you're fitting right in. Speaking of, we have another question, Marianne, and this is something that we even brought up today during our recap. The glasses. Was that always a part of Charlie? Was it your idea? Was it the right? Because for some reason we keep feeling like the glasses are something. We don't know what it is, but like
ick or a trigger or something.
So I had a conversation with some of the producers when we accepted the role, or when I accepted the role. And I just tried to, that was like the stage where I was just trying to get as much backstory and information as possible. I was like, who is this guy? Where does he come from? What is his background? What did he do? Why did he do that? And they didn't give me all the answers, but sort of one thing that we decided on is that the glasses would be sort of his defense mechanism, the Clark Kent to his Superman. The when he is trying to present this facade about being nerdy and being insecure and being this and that, he has the glasses on when he works at Titan, when he's fumbling around and not knowing what to say, but also when he ends up needing a mask and being nervous. So we'll see, like with Claire, he wore the glasses a lot, and for me, I felt like that was a defense mechanism for Charlie. And you'll see in some of the scenes coming up too, it's interesting that we're talking about this. There are specific moments where I chose to have the glasses on and then to take them off, and to almost like show the real Charlie when he gets painted in that corner, and when he can't lie his way out of something. It's like, all right, man, you want to know what happened? You want to go? You want to do this? Let me take my glasses off. Wow. And so that was a very specific decision from me and from the producers, is like, we are going to make these glasses sort of symbolic of like Charlie trying to live these dual lives and have this dual personality.
Yeah, because we felt like there was something to the glasses. I still remember the scene where like Charlie put them on, and I was like, there's something to these glasses. I don't know what it is yet, but it just felt like it was made a point to like show Charlie is putting on his glasses, and I was like, interesting. So I just kept that up here. But you mentioned working with Isabel, who is fantastic, and definitely we always worry when they have to come in and like replace another actress in a role, because so fans can be very nice, or they can
or
be
not so nice,
or not so nice. But she's doing an amazing job. But definitely when you guys got together, my first thought was, what a interesting first date. A wedding where someone is getting like choked out and faked out and all this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, for Charlie to be new to Salem, if I was him, I would have said, you know what? I'm good. I'm just gonna pack my things and just go elsewhere.
But at the same time, I feel like that was great. Not great for Charlie and Claire, but really great for Isabel and Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I will say this too. It's very telling that Charlie wasn't the way a sane, normal human being would react. It's like, wait, it's our first date. I show up to a wedding. Somebody's impersonating somebody else. Somebody gets choked out. Somebody's getting hauled away. What is going on? And the fact that he kept his cool, I think was very telling. And sort of, I keep going back to this because it breaks my heart a little bit that the way things are happening with Claire and Charlie, because I think otherwise Isabel, or I guess Claire and Charlie, are perfect for each other. Yeah. They have this broken past, and Charlie would never judge Claire for setting people on fire and attacking people and doing all these crazy things, because she had her mistakes and she's moved past it. And I think to a certain degree, Claire would never judge Charlie for his past. Now, the fact that it's her cousin and it was that bad, I think that it's gonna
there are points of no return.
Exactly. And so she's gonna have a decision to make. But I think it was a really cool way to show, without having to say it and be expository, to really show that these characters get each other and they're kind of the same. And actually show why they fall in love. Charlie's the first guy that hasn't judged Claire for this, and of course she's like, oh my gosh, you're my soulmate. And then with Charlie, he's looking at her like, oh, she's done all these crazy things too. Maybe she won't judge me for my past. Maybe we're perfect for each other.
Now I want to dive into, I know you can't get too much into the scenes that you're gonna have coming up that Allie and Charlie are going to have, but I want to, you've mentioned that things are going to get heavy, and I want to get into this question of how have those scenes and this experience shaped you? How has this changed you, Mike, the person? How have you had to come to terms with that? Because you have to come to terms with that as an actor. And it's one thing to play it, but I know that there's sometimes you can't always just leave it at the studio.
Yeah, of course. And I'll tell you honestly, with some of the scenes that we've shot, Mike, me, the human being, couldn't sleep the night before, had knots in my stomach driving to work, and then felt sick to my stomach leaving work that day, just with what we had to go through. And so yeah, it was really rough. Some of those scenes were really tough to shoot, and still even talking about it now, I just kind of feel sick. But like, Lindsay and I talked about it, and we were like, we have to do this a certain way because this is what happens to people. And if we don't go there, then we're not telling a truthful story. So, I have a little sister, and she's my baby sister. And if anything like this ever happened to her or a lot of the people that I care about, I would just explode. And so, and of course you try to separate yourself from your work, but I couldn't help but think about some of those things. And so I can say Charlie is the most challenging character I've ever played, not just because he's a completely different person with Philip and Xander and with Ava and with Claire and with everybody else. Like, there are so many different sides to him, but also playing somebody that has done something so awful and so wicked and is trying to move past that. And then all of those demons come up, and try to catch up with him. It's been really hard to live with that, and just to play a character that is capable of doing such awful things.
Yeah. John,
I hope that answers your question. I don't know.
No, it does.
I feel like I just rambled.
Yeah.
No, I know.
It was good.
But I want to say that I feel like makes us as an audience love you as an actor more, because you recognize that and you're willing to play so deep into those points. So know that you have a lot of loyal fans and built a big fan base in a short amount of time.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. John in the chat wants to know, do you think that, like, if Charlie didn't have this kind of dark storyline, if Charlie and Joey, who is the other brother of Trip, would bond, since they both kind of have like these interesting relationships with Ava, do you think that had nothing happened and maybe if Joey had stayed on the canvas, do you think that that would have been a great relationship for Charlie to have with his other brother?
Yeah. That's an interesting question. In a perfect world, that Charlie would have monitored Trip in London. That would have never happened. He would have reported back to his mom. He would have taken it upon himself to try to impress her. He would have gotten a job at Titan. He would realize that he doesn't need Ava. He'd be buddies with Xander. He'd work at the company. He'd be with Claire. He'd maybe meet Trip in Salem, and they would, I think, had things been different, I think Charlie would have welcomed him as a brother, because, Charlie wants love. He's never felt anybody. He's never felt that anybody loved him. And so he would be buddies. And actually Lucas and I, for 7 years now, we've been buddies just through friend groups. So I've known Lucas well before he and I were ever on the show. And he's such a cool guy. And so Charlie, I feel like Charlie and Trip would have been brothers, would have been buddies. He would have gotten along with Joey. It would have been great. But he can't run from his mistakes. So, but
it wouldn't be Salem if you could enter into it with some sort of drama and backstory and clashing of like the families and stuff like that. So yeah. But in a perfect world, all of that sounds amazing.
but nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to watch that perfect world.
No. One last question before we let you go, because we will, continue talking and tie you up like Ava and just bombard you with
tie you up like Ava. I'm gonna get a shirt that says that. Tie you up like Ava. Hey.
That is a T-shirt that I think everyone would buy.
Oh, that's funny.
If now you obviously can't give a lot as far as like what's to come, but we always ask if you could sum up what we're gonna see in one word, what would that be?
Ooh.
Because
Okay.
we say one word because if you give too many words, soap fans are like Nancy Drews and Carmen Sandiego's. They'll be able to like decipher the
Yeah,
code and
no,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
But I feel like with one word, it at least gets the mind spinning and being intrigued on what's to come with Charlie.
I mean, I would encapsulate the next couple weeks with like, I would say like dynamite. Because it's gonna be like we had the calm before the storm. We knew it was coming, and now the fuse is lit, and like what's gonna happen?
Yeah,
I think Charlie is somebody. I think the most dangerous people are people with nothing to lose, and right now Charlie has something to lose. He has Claire, and that's really the only thing keeping him from going off the rails. And we'll see if she stays around to keep him from going off the rails.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, Mike, I can tell you, like, again, it's been such a pleasure having you like on Days and seeing your work and seeing what you've done to really develop this character. And I really think even with the dark past of Charlie, like we all still have a very, very soft spot for Charlie.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, you know, that we've seen where the storyline has been so far, we are hoping, praying, wishing, you know, we'll write letters to ensure that Charlie stays on the canvas and that he doesn't like exit stage left or anything like that. We really hope that Charlie remains.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's really nice. I feel like I'm sharing. It's like we all created this little thing together, this character, this story, and it's really nice when people care about it. And so it's been really nice talking to you about the storyline and everything. And I appreciate, you know, your support and everybody else's that I've sort of gotten along this journey along the way. So thank you for saying that.
Of course. And we hope that like you'll come back on again once we see what continues to happen with Charlie. And we'll love to have you back because this storyline is very interesting. Like I can't wait to see like what happens and how it continues to unravel. So, and a lot of the people in the chat room do agree. They also would like to see another shirtless scene.
Yes,
so
they're clamoring.
You know, well, I will go do some sit-ups and let the writers know. And
cool. They will make that happen. Well, thank you, Mike, so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, bye. Oh, wait. Nope.
No, that was right.
Did I do that right? Okay.
No, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. I was like, it's all, you know, it's always that awkward moment where you're like, okay, bye. And then it's like, where are the buttons?
Yeah.
Go.
We're not technologically, savvy people here. So be patient with us.
Especially week one back. But that was a great, a great chat with Mike.
He was really open too. Yeah.
Yes, and super talented guy, and like just really great. I can see everyone in the chat room really enjoyed seeing him. So like, you know, I just really hope that like, listen, I think he's redeemable. I'm just gonna say,
Really,
like, I think it's fine.
Really, one of the most. I really did dig deep, like, and I went back deep into all the soaps to check those assault storylines, and this is they've really taken a unique take on this particular story, and I really appreciate that. And I don't think it would have worked as well if they would have had an actor who wasn't willing to go so deep into those nuances. Like you said, Charlie's different with everybody.
He really is.
Yeah, so it's you know, they redeemed a serial killer, so you know, fingers crossed, people.
And I mean, Jack's a former rapist. He's, you know, and now a beloved character.
Yeah. So really quick before we close out our show, let's go back to some news and gossip. Justin, do you have it pulled up?
Yes.
All right. So you do the
yes.
first two, I'll do the last.
Okay. First piece, we have a new movie called Fatal Fiance. It's a Lifetime original movie starring Days' Camila Banos, Gabby, and Wally Kurth. Justin. Quickly, the synopsis is: when Lee is kidnapped on the day of her wedding by her fiance's delusional ex-girlfriend Faith, she does everything within her power to escape. But once she does, she begins to question whether Faith was ever really delusional or if she was just trying to save her life. And you can check out Fatal Fiance on Lifetime or mylifetime.com. Definitely check out Camilla and Wally Kurth in that. And the second, Lamone Archie, our very own Eli Grant, will be recurring on season 3 of the CW drama All American. His character, Superintendent D'Angelo Carter, was introduced in the season 2 finale. The new season of All America premieres January 18th at 8 p.m. So check out Lamone Archie on the
That's gonna
All
be
American,
good.
yes. And last but not least, our friends over at Spectrum Celebrity Events has just announced 3 new virtual Q&As that are coming up, which includes Mr. Mike Manning. So you can see, be a part of a virtual Q&A with him. That will be on February 27th. So make sure you get your tickets for that. Also, the 2 other virtual Q&As that will happen will be Cameron Grimes from The Young and the Restless and Ben Lewis from Arrow. So make sure you check that out. You can go get your tickets today. Go to spectrumcelebrityevents.com. That's spectrumcelebrityevents.com for all details and tickets. And as I said earlier, technology is not our friend today, so we can't show you the promo. However, please go to the Days app to find the extended promo so that you can find out what's coming up next week on your favorite soap opera, Days of Our Lives. All right, and that's it. That's all the Dishin that we have for this week. Before we head out, Justin, let the kind folks know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Justin Lee Hareld.
Oh, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Araceli, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Tia323 Araceli, and that's also it.
Okay, and you can find all of us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Dishin Days and _Dishin Days on the Twitter, and right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our Dishin Days channel where you can find all of our interviews, shows, and old shows right here. So make sure you subscribe and take a gander. There's quite some interesting stuff that's happening, including during the break, we had a press junket with the cast of Days of Our Lives. Justin and I had the pleasure of interviewing some of your favorite daytime stars. So make sure you go and check that out. Those interviews have already been posted. And of course, you can find Little Chocolate Me on all social media platforms at Lounging with Tony. We want to thank Mike Manning for coming on and chatting with us. Amazing job, amazing chat. You guys continue to just show love to him. We know that his character is very interesting, but he's doing an amazing job portraying it. And we will be back next week for another full dish of your favorite NBC #1 award-winning hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives. Until then, you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe and be well. And we'll be back next week for another full recap of Days of Our Lives. Bye, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Everybody, wash your hands.
New Year.
Wash your hands and wear your mask.